This is the 2023 NC750X DCT model from Honda. And today we're going to give it our first impression. If you're near or willing to travel to the College Station, Texas area, the owner is considering selling this. This may be up for sale soon. It is going to be listed around the $8,400 mark. This bike specifically does have crash bars and the side cases. The owner's email address will be in the description. The 2023 model only comes in DCT as far as I know. As for looks, I think the bike looks pretty good. The blue paint is a very nice color. The windshield is pretty small. It does not look adjustable. The seating position is pretty comfortable. I was concerned about my foot being too high and too cramped for my body, but it's not a problem at all. I'm 6'4", and this was very comfortable. One thing I really like is the storage where the gas tank typically is. You don't always need to attach bags since you have this. The dash has a positive display. It has a clock, a fuel gauge, gear indicator, digital RPMs, digital speedometer, total miles and trip miles, and average miles per gallon. This bike also has 4 riding modes. It has standard mode, which it defaults to every time you start the bike. It has sport mode, rain mode, and a user mode. And there are 3 different things that you can adjust in the user mode, such as traction control, power, and engine braking. The controls are a little bit different because it does have the DCT. It has your throttle, your front brake, your stop and start engine button, the neutral, drive, and manual mode button on the right. And then on the left, you have the parking brake, you have the mode selector, high beams, hazards, horn, blinker, and the manual shifting buttons. The foot pegs are large with a large piece of rubber. They look like they'll be very nice. The mirrors seem to be fairly big and very well spaced. As for passenger capabilities, this has a fairly large passenger seat, and the seat height for the rider is pretty low. So I think anyone around 5'9" or so could flat foot this on both sides. There are 2 big grab handles here for the passenger, and it comes stock with passenger pegs, but they are all metal. There is no rubber on top. All right, we're going to put this thing in sport mode and see how it does. All right, let's start this thing up. When you turn the key on, it goes right to standard mode and is automatically in neutral. So whenever you turn the bike off, you do need to set the parking brake. You just pull up here, see the little red button, pull up, push in, release. Drive mode here, neutral here. So if we hit D, we're now in first gear. Hit N, we're back in neutral. Obviously doesn't stall. There is no clutch to release the stall. So we are going to change it from standard to sport mode. So the power goes to 3, engine braking goes to 3, and traction control goes to 1. One thing I didn't mention at the beginning was that when you hit the brakes, either the front or the rear, they both activate. They're linked. So I have already ridden this bike on the way to this location in standard and rain mode, and neither of those modes really did it for me. So let's see if sport mode can do any better. All right away, the DCT in sport mode feels like a completely different bike. It feels better. Standard and rain mode, it really felt like the engine was struggling the whole time, like it was bogging down the whole ride until you got to like 50 plus. But sport mode, just so far on takeoff, feels really good. Very convenient not to have a clutch. So I just pulled on the throttle pretty good to see how fast it would accelerate. It's not quick. It gets there eventually. So what I notice is right now I'm just cruising at 60 miles an hour in 5th gear. And it's smooth. It feels very good right now. But when I go to accelerate, it seems a little choppy. I don't really know how to describe it. It's not I rode this Versi 650
yesterday, and when I would pull on the throttle, it felt buttery smooth, like the engine was so smooth, and this does not have that smooth feeling at all. If you plan on buying this bike and all you want to do is do a lot of straight riding like highways and stuff, and not do a lot of twisties, and you're not really trying to have much fun, you're just trying to go from point A to point B, like commuting to work. I see why everyone calls this a commuter bike now, is this will do the job, it just won't do the job as fun as some other bikes. Now on my first ride in standard and rain mode, the leaning did not feel very natural to me on this bike. But now that I'm in sport mode and I've ridden it for a little bit, it feels alright. Before I even saw the bike in person, I was doing some research and I was very concerned about my feet being too close, being too cramped. And a lot of people on these Facebook groups I'm a part of said 6'4" is too tall for this bike, you need to go to the Africa Twin. And I would completely disagree with all of those people. These foot pegs are fine. I have a 34 to 36 inch inseam, depending on the brand, and I'm comfortable. I'm not cramping up at all. Alright, we're going to accelerate here again. I almost had to pin it there just to accelerate. If you were getting this as a first bike, even though it's a 750, I don't see it as unreasonable at all. It's, especially in the standard in rain mode, it's very tame. If you put it in sport, it's kind of feels like a regular motorcycle. Not too fast, not too powerful, never going to get away from you.
All right, final thoughts on the NC750X. If I had this bike, if I owned this bike, I would have to ride it in sport mode only. The other modes just didn't have enough power, or I would do a user-defined mode and up the power as much as I could. Like I said in the beginning of the video, the storage and the seating position were very good. The mirrors are spaced out very wide, which I like. The handlebars are spaced out appropriately, and not having to clutch was very convenient. The dash also has all the information displayed very nicely. So those are the things I like. Some of the things I don't like about the NC750 would be the DCT motor might not be for me. I went into this expecting the DCT to be extremely smooth, almost not feel the shifting at all, but that is not the case. You do feel the shifting, especially in the lower gears and lower RPMs. And it wasn't harsh, but you could definitely feel it. It would definitely take some time to get used to. I did feel like the engine, it felt almost like you were bogging the engine most of the time, because it would shift so early in rain and standard mode that it felt like the engine never really got a chance to get up to speed in the lower gears. A lot of people say this is a low center of gravity, but the front, this part to me felt pretty heavy. I did have to lean a little bit more aggressive to go back and forth. Now, since this is a 2023 model, I am going to put the MSRP up here. I believe it's around the $9,400, $9,500 mark. And after tax and dealer fees and stuff, you're probably at 10 or just above $10,000. And would I buy this bike for the full retail price? I would not buy this bike. I don't think it has enough power from what I'm looking for. It just doesn't give you that exhilaration that you feel when you get on some motorcycles. And I want that to some extent. So the NC750 is not for me. If you want to see me review the Kawasaki's Versys 650, a competitor to the 750, click this video right here. And if you want to see me test ride more motorcycles, click this playlist right here.
Rapping when they own me to sing on. They all want an album, so I gave them 20 singles. Yeah, I'm trying to get a hit, that's why I swing.